Hello, Kate. I'm so excited that you decided to talk with me today. And Kate is joining us from Barcelona, Spain. Yay, international. The world is becoming smaller and smaller. And she is a human design expert and coach. And I actually met Kate through the coaching program that we are both attending. And I experienced her human design reading, and that was amazing. And that's what we're going to talk about. I think it's going to be a super, super knowledgeable, interesting conversation because we also come from kind of similar backgrounds, that Soviet Union flair kind of thing. But we landed in different parts of the world and just meeting through coaching because we both are looking for expansion and growth. And that's why we're here. So, but as always,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for such a nice introduction, Julia. Hi, I'm so glad to be here. So super excited.
awesome. Yes. And I love your smile. So it's 3 o'clock for her, and that's 9 o'clock for me. So, okay. So, Kate, I always ask my guests one question. It's a very important question, especially for my series, I'm Not Good Enough to What is Possible, or From I Am Not Good Enough to What is Possible. And that is recognizing our successes. What can we celebrate about you today?
About me personally, or about everyone?
No, about you personally. It's
Okay.
that inner voice within you who says, like, yes, you're good enough. You are
Yeah.
fantastic. What can we celebrate?
Yeah,
Yes.
honestly, actually, it hit me a couple of days ago when I was a little bit down. And then, yeah, I had this very strong voice in my head that screamed at me, "We are alive."
Yes.
And it was so huge because I took a walk in the cemetery, and it really hit me that I am alive, and it is so amazing. And that's something I'm celebrating every single day. And after this, I went to the beach, and honestly, I felt like I'm seeing everything for the first time. And I'm like, oh my God, the sky is blue, this sand, this sea, it's incredible. And it's we should never forget, that like we are alive, and it's incredible. So many people aren't, and they don't have this chance. And every day it's a new day, it's a new chance to start anew, to see everything with new eyes. And yeah, it's like every day is an exploration. So I think it's a huge thing to celebrate. At least I'm celebrating.
Yes, exactly. And that's fantastic. Let's celebrate. I am alive. I'm alive. I'm alive. Yay. Awesome. And it's beautiful how you had that realization from the contrast of walking through the cemetery. So I've been learning a lot about contrast and experiencing in my life, and something that I was pushing away and always thought that was something wrong with me when, like, something bad happens, right? So, but this is what I've been learning. So more we experience the contrast, more we're getting close to the other side of the stick, so to speak. So, and that particular day, whatever happened to you, so maybe you were more aware, maybe you were ready to receive that energy, you just experienced that aliveness, and then everything around you, it had always been there, but you experienced it in a different way. And I think that's what, like, I see the power of coaching that we both do and learn about. It's that one moment, one insight, one perspective, one shift, one realization of the day, and then suddenly it creates this ripple effect on the entire life.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing it. Yes.
Yeah. And I also wanted to mention like the topic that we are going to talk about being enough and moving into human design. I just, like these things connect in my head that's what human design teaches us. It's a science of differentiation, that we are enough just because we are born, just because we are on this planet, and we are all perfect and unique in our own way. And I mean, we're going to talk about it today, but I just wanted to preface that,
Yeah.
yeah, like that's really the power of human design. It's like, it's not, it just tells you who you are so that you can feel enough just by being who you are.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's why I love it. It's like that journey and permission to be you. That's how I felt after I had your human design reading. I was like, oh, yeah, I have a permission now. Finally. Right. And of course, I am the one who gives myself a permission, but just like knowing that the human design has that sort of a like a blueprint, and
Yeah.
this is what I've been experiencing, but in a way, a lot of times judging myself for like being different or doing things in a different way. But really, that's who I am. And this is just
Yeah.
my power of accepting who I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And the thing is, yes, we all know who we are deep, deep, deep down. But what happens then, we get all the conditioning from
Mm,
all the years of living in a society. So human design, it's kind of like it's a deconditioning system. So it just
mhm.
takes all of the layers out so that you go back to yourself, to who you always were and who you know you are deep down. But because of these layers of conditioning, we forget.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where actually our growth happens. It's when our essence of that human design essence and our ego that lives in life and collects. So when they start communicating, then I think that's where the powerful breakthroughs happen. And also, in addition to what we started to talk about, I read this quote today, and I think it's perfect to everything that you just said. Most people are trying to become something which they are already. And that's by Peter Sage.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
familiar with his work, but that's the quote that is going to be, yes, our preface for our talk through the prism of the human design. How can we use this tool to help us get closer to who we are already? And then as we more understand that and more aware of that, we can start creating practices of accepting those parts of ourselves, which we maybe like been denying through the prism of I'm not good enough. Right.
Yeah.
So let's start with, like you already said a little bit about the human design, but let's us maybe talk about your story, how you got interested in human design, what attracted you to it, and maybe how it changed your life. So let's
Yeah.
start there.
Yeah. Okay. So the moment when I really, yeah, felt connected to human design was I was living in a community, and a woman has been invited who was a human design expert, and we had a circle of everybody who lived in the community, and she gave a little, like little pieces of information about each one of us, and there was
Mhm.
something specific about me. There was about profile lines actually to four. So like I'm part hermit and part social butterfly, and these two parts coexist in me, which I know now, because before that, I like my whole life I felt like something is really, really wrong with me, because especially like I love being around people. Relationships are super important to me. And then I moved in the community, and I thought, oh my God, that's a dream life. And then after a couple of months, everybody started driving me crazy, and I was like, oh my God, I need my space. I hate people. Like, what's going on? And so I left. And then like this cycle kept repeating again and again and again. And I just felt, why am I never happy with what I have? And then this woman talking about my profile and my personality, that I do need a lot of time alone, but at the same time, I also really value community, and I really need relationships in my life. And so my job is not to judge myself and choose, am I that this or am I that? But my job is to marry these two parts of myself, because we have lots of contradictions inside of us. And I think many people struggle because of that, because we want to
Yeah.
have like one personality, but we are not just one thing, we are complex beings. So this is what got me really. And, this feeling like, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. I just
Mhm.
need to learn how to, yeah, like how to implement this in my life. And so, yeah, this is what got me curious. And I started learning more. And then I saw more and more of these contradictions, like seemingly contradictions, right? And
Mhm.
I just saw how helpful it is for people. Yeah, like receiving this permission to just be who they are and not feel bad about it. And then
Mhm.
being aware, it's like it's awareness tool, right? So it makes you more aware about who you are and how you behave and like what is your design and how you function best, how you can best use your energy. And so with this awareness, then of course it's up to you to implement this into your life. But then with, kind of like coaching, it gives you more awareness. Life becomes so much easier, and it's just, yeah, it teaches us how to live life as we are.
Yes, and that's beautiful. That's how I felt too. So it's like there is this outside confirmation of that divine human design out there. And when you reflect on it, like through you as an expert, as a coach, helping me reflect on it, that becomes like that confirmation. Oh, yeah, like there is nothing wrong with me. This is actually like a design of me. So now it's
Mhm.
just power of learning how to accept and be and become and practice those parts of me, but not from that place, like you said, oh, something is wrong with me. What's going on? But
Yeah,
how can I unite that and also
yeah.
benefit from this um, power that is within me? So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. That's actually a very good point, because I always say this is where magic happens. When there is like a contradiction or things that, clash, this is where the magic happens, because this is where you can really bridge. This is what makes each one of us unique. Different
Mhm.
parts that come together that seemingly have nothing to do with each other, but then when we bridge different worlds, like when I see someone, for example, who has very strong spiritual side but then also very strong material side,
Mhm.
and these people can really breach these two worlds, because sometimes we see these extremes in the world, right? It's like people
Mhm.
are too materialistic and too concerned about money, or the other way around, they're too spiritual and they're like
Mhm.
really up there in the sky. And then they're broke and
Yes.
they don't really know how to live life. And so people who have two strong things, like some people struggle, they're like, I'm this but I'm also that, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, this is your superpower, because you can really become this bridge between these two worlds. So it's really turning your like liabilities, what you think is, like kind of wrong, into your superpower.
Yeah, into your assets for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
just like we started a conversation from the contrast, yes. I
Mhm.
think this is where our personal power lies. That's what I've been experiencing lately, practicing really. It's holding all of it, and especially the opposites and the contrasts. So, and
Mhm.
more you learn through it and get connected to your power to hold all of life,
Yeah.
more you become empowered and also use that for your own growth and for your own expansion and for your own journey of moving to your wholeness,
Mhm.
because that's what I think the journey is all about. I think that when we are in those contrasts, and yes, they kind of like contradict, like in your experience, um, and then we don't know what to do with it. I think our instant reaction, because this is just how we program to kind of like that negative side, right? It's a negative
Mhm.
bias, which is going to like something is wrong with me.
Mhm.
So, and like through the human design and the coaching, so what we're learning and experiencing is like, oh, interesting to notice.
Mhm.
So then how can I access my power as I embrace all parts of me? The
Mhm.
ones that
Mhm.
I thought, oh yeah, I wasn't good enough, something was wrong with me. What if I turn them around and say, well, there's nothing wrong with me? And if I don't judge myself, then how can I benefit and experience my power from embracing all the opposites and then really accessing my wholeness through that experience? And that's beautiful. It's just beautiful. So going and exploring our subject, and this is from I'm not good enough to what is possible, which is basically, again, the contrasts. And I know there are lots of people who have this I'm not good enough. And yes, that relates to our own self-worth. And that also, I think, shows how much we are disconnected from our wholeness. And I
Mhm.
strongly believe that when we feel disconnected, which means not accepting those, crazy parts of us or the ones we judge, right? That's when all the suffering happens. And then also, like, with I'm not good enough, it's definitely in the mindset of scarcity. Like, how can you create more out of that place when you're just struggling to accept yourself in that whole form? So yeah, let's hear your expert opinion and also your journey, because I know you have those moments of I'm not good enough. So in how we can use human design, for example, to help us, again, come to that wholeness between I'm not good enough and I'm just fine as I am.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, first and foremost, we kind of touched on it already, is that the whole science of human design is the science of differentiation and the conditioning. So the whole reading, right? So like I'm reading about what is your energy type, what is your perfect environment, what is your personality, because it helps you to see how unique you are. I really think that we think we're not good enough because we are comparing ourselves to other people, right? And we have an idea in our head of how it should be, and then we compare it to that, and we're like, okay, I'm not good enough compared to that, right? So like good enough, not good enough doesn't exist in vacuum, right? It's always in comparison to something. So
Mhm.
human design as a whole, it helps you understand that you are unique. And there's no way you can compare yourself to other people. So even when we talk about energy type, and this is about how we work, our energy. So the majority of the world works in the same manner, right? It's every day, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And then according to human design, not everybody's designed to work this way. And some people do not have consistent energy and their energy fluctuates. And so they will never, ever feel good enough trying to work in a normal way because they're not designed to work this way. So just this awareness that you were never meant to work this way, you were meant to work in a different way. This is already, a great permission slip. And this is, as you said, your experience, right? That it was a permission for me to just be who I am, that I am enough,
Mhm.
just who I am, just because I am who I am.
Mhm.
So this is a huge part. And then another part, which is, I would say, more specific to this I'm not good enough, is if we talk about conditioning, the biggest areas of conditioning are the centers. So this is like deeper part of human design. It's not, yeah, like if you read stuff on the internet, it's not written so much about, but it's, if you know how the body graph looks, right? So it's 9 centers, and some of them are colored and some of them are open. So those centers that are open, this is where we have the most conditioning. This is where we can really absorb the ideas from the outside world, depending on the center. So it might be emotions, it might be thoughts, it might be worries from the outside world, and then we amplify that. So this is what we explore in when I do one-on-one reading, right? So it's like go into those open centers and see where exactly the conditioning is. The most like center that is most related to our topic is the heart center, or it's also called the will center, the ego center. So it's this little triangle in the very middle. And this center is really responsible for self-worth. And so like people who have it open, for them, it's really a challenge to feel this innate self-worth. And the non-self theme for those who have it open is always trying to prove. So always trying to prove that they are actually good enough through achievements, through something external. And the thing is that actually 70% of population have the center open. So for 70% of population, self-worth is a challenging theme, is a challenging topic, and they are more prone to this feeling of not being good enough and then trying to prove their worth through something, through achievement. So this is like the first place where I look at. It doesn't mean if you have it colored, it doesn't mean that you are immune to never feeling not good enough, because it really depends on your environment. You know, if you've been grown in a family where you've been constantly told that, no, this is wrong, it's not how it's done, of course you feel good, not good enough, you know. So this is our genetic blueprint, but then of course our upbringing plays a huge role. But still, like, this is the innate. And I also find that those people who have the center defined, for example, even if they had challenging upbringing, then it will be like easier and faster for them to get back to their like foundational state, which is having this feeling of self-worth, which is innate, than for those who have this center undefined. And that also might be an answer for why for some people it takes years to be in therapy, and for some people it's relatively fast, right? So because we have predisposition, just like genes, right? Some people are more predisposed to certain disease and some people no. It doesn't mean that they will get this disease or not, but it's predisposition.
Yeah.
So that would be my answer.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking, the way you described it. So like, yeah, the genes, we have the predisposition, but now they say more and more, like, it does not mean you're going to experience that, but it really depends on your environment and how it's going to activate your gene. So I guess it's very much in line with the genetics, right, of the body. Well, I was just thinking maybe we can use what you were talking about and also our topic on a particular example, like myself, and also kind of dive a little bit more into different profiles so that maybe you can kind of enlighten us with that. So like, I'm a manifester, then tell us, what do people need to give you so that you determine what profile they are? And if we can use me as an example in a manifester, and what you explained earlier with the centers, like maybe that will give a little bit more particular example.
Yeah, of course. So in order to get the human design chart, I need time of birth, place of birth, date of birth. It works in a similar way as astrological natal chart. And then I have your blueprint. So in your case, yes, you're a manifestor. This is your energy type. So manifestors are only 9% of population. And it's sad that manifestors
are really unique. Yeah, okay, 9%. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's sad that manifestors are the most conditioned type because they're so different in a way they view the world. And manifestors is the only type that is supposed to initiate, because other types are responding to the environment in order to like really move forward and be in the flow. But manifestors are, it's just they're so different, and they need freedom so much, and they hate being micromanaged. And what happens, why they're most conditioned type, because most of the times the parents of manifestors don't really know what to do with them, because like they love being in their process, they love being by themselves, they love, they go to school and they're like, it doesn't make sense to me how things are done. I want to do them in a different way. And then the parents don't know what to do with them, so they try to suppress them, and the more they suppress them, the more they either they rebel or they suppress it even more within themselves and become these really good kids who don't want to bother anybody, and just because they really try to keep the peace, because peace is the signature of a manifestor. So peace is so important for them that sometimes they can even sacrifice their own well-being just so that they can remain peace. So and I see so many manifestors when I do my readings, who are completely lost. Like they are so unaware of their power because their whole life they tried to be like everybody else. They tried to fit because it was so hard for them to fit. So they kind of like adapted a different personality so that just they can fit. And of course, they don't feel like themselves. They don't feel good enough because it's not who they are. So yeah, that's really the first piece. Being a manifestor by itself is a, there's a lot of conditioning and lots of manifestors feel not good enough just because they don't live like who they are and they've been doing it from very early age. If you want to say
Yeah.
something on it.
Yeah, I was just wanting to comment because everything you just described, summarizing my profile, I know we did it a couple months ago, but it's like exactly where I am. And it's like, I'm being understood by you. Thank you. And you just described exactly my relationship with my mom. And that's exactly what I'm struggling with at the moment. I was just doing my own kind of self-coaching and voicing my note in the notes, and I was like, okay, I have freedom now and I have like spaciousness and I don't know what to do with it because I think I was so much conditioned by my mom and she was in a way micromanaging me. Now I see it more and also what you said. But because she was also like this big personality. So yeah, it's just like everything you said is like, oh, someone understands me. And it's a very comforting feeling. And also just knowing that it's like in that divine design. And now this is like makes it clear what my journey could be. So yeah, I really just like, yeah, want to pause here and process it for myself. So that's why it's important to do human design. So once in a lifetime, you can feel so much understood.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. And yeah, there was just so many aha moments when I had that human design reading with you, and it was 90 minutes, but I feel like it was 90 minutes well spent. And it was just really helping me access, yeah, like you said, my own power that I didn't know I had, because yes, I had to be a certain way, act a certain way to meet the condition, to fit in, even though here and there I had my moments of rebellion personality. But I always like called myself, I'm a quiet rebellion. I'm not like that rebellion who is like, okay, let's go. I'm like, no, doesn't fit with me. I'm out. So but that's it. I just kind of like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm leaving. You do whatever you want. And I had a lot of those moments in my life. But then I always like go and hide because I feel like, oh, maybe I'm too much for the world, or maybe I'm not doing it right. So, uh, and that's how I think my complex of I'm not good enough was a cover up. If you have something to add from this, my profile and my conditioning and how that formed into I'm not good enough, and how maybe like we can use the human design understanding to help me create a breakthrough. And if you're not a manifestor, that's okay. You have I'm not good enough. So I'm sure that might apply as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, as we said, the awareness is the first step, right? So, being aware of the patterns is already huge. And then the most important about human design is experimenting with that. And the most important pieces are strategy and authority. So, for you as a manifestor, the strategy is to initiate and inform. For generators and manifesting generators, which are 70% of the population, the strategy is waiting to respond. For projectors, the strategy is waiting for invitation. So this is really huge part. It's like the most important part of human design, which, and I say experiment because our whole life we probably were acting a different way. And so this is why it's like changing habits, changing the way you're acting, changing the way you live your life. and you experiment and you experiment and you experiment, and then you see that, okay, when I'm following my strategy, life actually is better. Like opportunities come my way, life
Mhm.
starts flowing. It doesn't feel like I'm pushing all the time. It feels like
Mhm.
things are just flowing. So it creates more ease in your life. So that's the strategy. And then the authority, in authority, this is how we make decisions. So none of us is supposed to make decisions from our head. We all supposed to make decisions in a different way. And what we call intuition, everybody has, like, intuition manifests in a different way in everybody's body. So this is what I absolutely love about human design. So in your case, for example, it's emotional authority. So the majority of people have either sacral authority or emotional authority, and they are completely different. So for you as an emotional authority, you cannot make decisions on the spot. So the sacral authority, they can make decisions on the spot because the sacral is the gut. It responds right away, and it's very loud and it's very strong. And this is what we call the gut instinct. So for those people, the work is really learn to trust this gut instinct. And often I recommend to keep a journal of, what your gut says to you, so that we need to give our brain the evidence that this is working so that it can start trusting it. Like, this is how we really repattern, because if we were operating from our mind our whole life, it will not trust if all of a sudden you say, okay, now I'm living for what my gut says. It's like, what?
Mhm.
So, but giving the brain the evidence that, okay, this is what my gut responded to, and this was the result, and I'm really happy with the result. This gives mind the evidence that, okay, we now can trust that.
Mhm.
And then for you as emotional authority, it's the other way around, because with emotional authority, Raul Ruhu, who is the founder of Human Design, he said, there's no truth in the now. Meaning that in the moments, like when you're about to make a decision, it might feel for you like, yeah, I really want to do that. And it's so, like, you're really excited about it. You really want to do that. And then next day you wake up and you're like, oh my God, what did I say yes to? I really don't want to do that. And it's devastating. And so many people lose trust in themselves because on both, so like emotional authority, you go through emotional wave, and on emotional high, you're so, yes, you're so ready. And then emotional low, it's completely the other way around, and you don't want to do anything. And then you're frustrated. You're like, why can't I make a decision? Why do I change my mind? And so knowing about that, it's like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're emotional authority. That's how you're supposed to, like, learn in this process, right? That, okay, you can't reach certainty, but you can reach clarity. And it comes with time, and you need to wait, and you need to tune into that couple of times. So it's like a muscle memory. You are developing a new way of making decisions, which becomes your new way. And this is when you stop regretting your decisions and when you start trusting yourself.
Oh my God. Yeah. Again, I'm like, somebody actually understands me. This because this is like, the human basic need being understood. And I'm sure if I'm, talking to some other profiles, I'm probably less understood by others. But that's exactly how we make decisions even before a Zoom. That's why she, of course, being a human design expert, followed up with me on my part when I changed the topic and whatever in between, and then came back to it. So thank you. But that's exactly like how, and I think intuitively I realized, or like created this strategy, because I now never make decisions on the spot, like very rarely. I wouldn't say never, but very rarely. And depending on obviously like the investment or whatever the commitment. But yeah, I always take time.
Good.
So I
Good.
go think about it. I get excited, but I've
Yeah.
learned like no, because yeah, you were exactly right. So for me, yeah, I'll get excited, I'll make a decision, and then next day I'm going into the emotional low. And then from that, I don't know where I go after that. But now I just learn to like, okay, sounds good. Let me think about it.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I
yeah.
think about it, and also through a coaching school that we go to, so we learn a lot of emotional and somatic tools. So I now have a process to kind of learn emotionally from inside out and reach that moment of peace. And then the
Mhm.
next day or whenever I said, I would follow up and say, like, okay, I'm excited still.
Yeah,
I'll do
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So
I love
now
that.
I feel like at peace that and interesting that you said that was a good distinguish that you made. So like you said, for other people, the sacral people, they reach the certainty. And like for me, for the emotional decision making, I reach clarity with time.
Mhm, mhm.
That was interesting distinguish, I thought, the clarity and the certainty. So yeah, for
Yeah.
me, it's more clarity.
And it's
Interesting.
important because, yeah, because for emotional people, like you might, I'm also emotional, so I can say we we
Yeah.
never, like it's just not in our nature. So for most things, we will never feel 100% certainty. Never. And it's important to accept that about ourselves because,
Mhm.
some people do. And it's so much easier to be like just 100% certain or how whole body, yes, all of this self
Yeah.
help advice and all of that. And for emotional people, it's just not in their nature, to be like 100% certain about something without any doubt and like without going back and forth. So that's why it's like it's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is clarity, and it's calm clarity. So when
Mhm.
we pass the emotional wave, when it's not up, when it's not low, it almost as if all emotions are gone and we don't feel
Mhm.
anything. And it's just like, yeah. And it's
Mhm.
clarity. It's like, yeah, that's the right
Yeah.
thing to do.
Yeah. I just recently, yeah, made a decision, and that's exactly how I experienced it. So
Mhm.
that's good. Actually, yeah, it's good reflection. And I think that's why I maybe relate to the image that I have in my head. It's like, and I guess maybe this is the emotional image, like how you described emotion. So I always imagine the ocean and the ocean waves. So, and
Mhm.
they go high and they go low and then between, and they're always adapting to this environment and the rain and the wind and whatever. And then there is a moment of floating. So I think that's
Yeah.
how I feel when you describe
Yeah.
that. Clarity. Oh, okay. So, and it's good to know this is in the nature. So also like
Mhm.
we have the weather changes
Yeah.
constantly. And then there is
Yeah.
a moment of it's like, oh,
Yeah.
there is not even a leaf moving right now. So, so
Yeah.
that's beautiful that I can relate to this nature flow. And
Mhm.
yes, I think that's how I felt like that calm clarity within me. And I think I'm still learning to be familiar with it because that's still very unfamiliar process. And then just trust that calm, clear feeling and go with it. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Really good. So we have a
Beautiful.
strategy. So for manifestors, it's inform and initiate. We have authority. So, and we have the emotional authority and the sacral authority. So for sacral, it's that certainty and you go with it. And for emotional, it's that calm
Yeah.
clarity. Yeah,
There are
I
more
like.
authorities, but they are like much less percentage. This is why I usually don't talk about them, but there's more.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just gonna focus on common and my
Yeah.
profile, I suppose. So, and I think like for strategy, inform and initiate. So that was also a good piece for me to know because I am definitely the initiator, but I always like thought like, oh, there's something wrong with me. But I just go into the idea. So, and I love being in the idea. So that's why I get fascinated with the potentiality and what is possible. And I just like can go, but then calm down and like come to the ground. It's like, yeah, let me just inform somebody and somebody else will do it. That's why in my business, I had a relationship with another coach and we kind of co created together. And that's
Mhm.
when I really noticed that about me, like really was aware. Oh, look at that. I just go and then she makes it like happen. And I
Yeah.
thought, wow, this is like perfect. But as you
Yes.
reflected on it, I felt so like again comfortable just
Mhm.
if I have this relationship or find somebody who can be that other piece to the puzzle,
Yeah.
then it was like a perfect match.
Mhm.
So, and that's
Mhm.
how we co-created together for some time. And it was a beautiful relationship, I thought.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And that's another area where human design is extremely helpful. So to use it for teams and for collaborations, because as you said, it's like, I sometimes see our whole world as a big puzzle piece, like puzzle
Mhm.
picture, and we're
Yes.
all little puzzles, and we all have unique talents and gifts. And in collaboration, this is where the magic happens, because each person, it's very rare that like can create something by themselves. We all need other people so that we can really create bigger impact. And so
Mhm.
even in human design, there are different pieces. For example, there's actually in your case, not only you are manifesting, you have the gate of beginnings. So gate 53 is the gate of beginnings. And how it works, there are different gates and then they form channels. And when there's one gate on one side and another gate on another side, and together they create electromagnetic channel. So if you have just gate 53, right? And on the other side is gate 42, which is the gate of completion. So you have the gate of beginning, but you don't have the gate of completion, meaning that
Mhm.
it's not that you cannot finish things, it's just that it's much easier and more natural for you to start something, to get this spark, to initiate, to like it's the first,
Yeah.
like boom. And you, like many serial entrepreneurs, have that configuration because you just want to start things and like, what else can I start, and this and that.
Uh-huh.
And then
Yeah.
for some people, they actually do not have maybe so many ideas, or they don't have this initial, spark, but they are really
Mhm.
good at completing things and like taking them and bringing them to completion and actually getting the result. And so
Mhm.
when two people meet, one with the beginning, another one with completion together, it's just so easy for them, for both of them, because they just stay in their area of genius and then give opportunity to another person to do what they're really good at. So again, knowing that and like using human design for teams, for collaborations is super helpful.
Yeah, I can see that totally working for sure. And I think maybe that's how I can explain now my constant change with my entrepreneurial focus. Yeah, because at certain point I'm like, okay, I'm done here. Let's let's try something else. And I thought maybe it's just like, that what do they call it? Golden object syndrome, is that I think the term. And but maybe it's just me initiating and beginning. And I'm because I've been an entrepreneur for like 20 years. And over that time, um, we've tried different things. And I've also changed my focus so many
Mm-hmm,
times. So
mm-hmm,
uh,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
so then I'm
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to like land my roots.
yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, for you specifically, well, two things I want to say. One, it's also, yeah, as you said, I didn't know if it's actually like because of who I am or because I need to change something. So we should never use human design as an excuse. It's not your
Mhm.
case, but some people do that. They're like, oh, that's who I am. So I don't have to put any effort because that's just who I am.
Right.
Right?
Well, yes.
It's like
Yeah.
we are still humans and, we still have certain things and we have, like things we need to work on. And, you know,
Mhm.
laziness doesn't go anywhere. So it's one piece of it, right? So it's like not using human design as an excuse. And
Mhm.
I think most people know the difference, right? So, like you, when you hear that, when it gives you this permission that, yes, it's not because I didn't put enough effort, it's because really this was complete for me and I moved to something else and it was clean. And now you just see the confirmation that that's because who you are, then it's beautiful, then that's amazing. And
Mhm.
Yeah, I wanted to say something else about you specifically.
Yeah, you
Um,
did. But while you're thinking about it, I will yeah, I guess maybe clarify something about this. Yes, definitely it's a good point not to use human design or any other tools that are out there to justify. So
mhm,
yeah, I think I still move forward to like finding myself and finding my purpose. And yes, I think the changes that were happening or my focus was shifting. It was um perhaps, yeah, happening from that place of that floating. And it's like,
mhm,
and also my excitement. So, like, in a
mhm,
way, I'm kind of like, I'm excited about this, but I really more excited about this. Let's just like learn that. And interestingly enough, also, like, there is that something inside of you kind of guides you. Because when I started my self-entrepreneurial journey of asking the question what Jules wants to do in life, because I have it kind of like my American dream. This is before the American dream, and this is like Jules' dream.
mhm,
So what happened there, I started just kind of searching and discovering, but I called my business, the first one, Move Your Mind. No, Mind Your Movement, Move Your Mind.
mhm,
Now I'm just like really completing the circle because I spent a lot
mhm,
of years in moving the body. So I'm
mhm.
learning a lot from the physical perspective and the biomechanics and how to get out of pain and all of that. And then now I'm like literally making a circle, like, oh, now we're moving the mind. So, and then there is something somewhere in my whatever destination combining this all together. So, yeah, I think it kind of like, I'm still sort of like around the same kind of big umbrella, the mind and body. But I am definitely get more excited about the
Mhm.
next something. And then I go there because I think that also gives me an opportunity to like think differently, create differently, seek differently, and yeah, just
Yeah,
just a different something
yeah,
excites
yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah. That's a good distinction. And also you have Gate 35, which is all about experiments and
Oh, okay. Well,
like wanting new things and experimenting
mm,
with things, and just this like really desire for trying different things. So I can definitely
mhm.
see that. And you also have line 3, which is also about trying, experimenting, and trial and error and all of that. um, just one thing for specifically for manifestor, how you can really define when it's time to move on. So for you, as part of your strategy, it needs to feel like an urge. So
Mm,
it's not just like, oh, it's a good idea, maybe I should try it. It's like it's not enough. But when it feels like it's building up, it's building up, it's building up, and then it feels like an urge, like,
mhm.
oh my God, if I don't do that, I'm gonna explode. This is when you go.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly how it happened.
Good.
That's exactly, the urge is a good word. Yeah. So yeah, I did not know that, but as you
Yeah,
said that, that's a lot of times when I move into action and I
yeah.
just like get really fueled by the urge. And I know you told me that like for this period of time, I'm just like, blah,
Yeah,
the world
yeah,
needs to know we're gonna move forward no matter what. And then yes, you help me also understand that like I can only function like this for so long, and that's normal. After that, I'm kind of in a way crushed, but this is the time to really just again not to judge and not to go what's wrong with me, but like, well, the urge is over.
mhm,
It's time to rest, and
yeah,
then see what happens there again. Yeah, so
exactly,
that was really good to know,
exactly,
but that's yeah, exactly how I
exactly.
operate.
Yeah.
So it's just good to know. So if we're using kind of like again human design to help us understand more who we are and move to our wholeness. So going back to our topic, which all of that we've talked about applies, but like let's say like for me, if we are just summarizing that manifester, So my conditioning, my not good enough, suppressing myself and maintaining peace, like you said, at the sake of my well-being, or perhaps like who I am really inside.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so what would be, how can we again use the bridge to that I am complete, this is who I am, this is what I want to like take from human design and start putting into
Mhm,
practice to help me
mhm.
really embrace who I am already, being
Yeah,
suppressed.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, two things really. One, I really recommend getting a full human design reading to see the whole picture, because we talked about different pieces, but it's one thing looking at pieces in isolation and just getting ideas. It's just like a little light bulbs, it's like, oh yeah, that resonates, that resonates. And then when somebody reads your whole design and see you as a whole, because there are different pieces that lay on top of each other, this is where you really get full understanding of who you are and how to leverage that and how to live with that and how to operate with that. So that's first piece. And then the second piece is the experimentation. And this is the harder piece because it's just like coaching, right? It's not a magic pill. Nothing happens overnight. It's something you need to work through and experiment with. So with Strategy Authority, just trying it again and again and again and see, okay, it works, or falling back and feeling like, okay, it's really hard for me, but I'm going to try again and I'm going to experiment and I see what really works for me. So this is why, yeah, it's like one thing is the exciting part where you feel really seen and understood with the human design. And then the second part is your own work. So like human design, I'm showing you the map, but then you need to walk the walk with,
Yes.
by yourself and really experiment. And if you do it as part of a coaching, then of course it's easier because there's someone who can reflect you and, work with you and help you to integrate this knowledge.
Mhm.
So it becomes easier and faster. But it's really about your work and your experimentation and trying. And like when I do the reading, I send a recording to the person because it's like we
Mhm.
forget. And so we need to come back to it again and again and again and remember who we
Yes.
are. And we all need these reminders because, we're humans and life happens. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yes. It's almost like that breakthrough conditioning.
Yeah.
And yes, I like how you said we need to be reminded who we are.
Yeah.
Yes, that's beautiful. And yes, I highly recommend taking your um, reading. And what I also enjoyed about it, because Kate is actually an excellent coach and she's using human design to really help you get to your blueprint and live your authentic life. And I loved how in our reading, you incorporated some coaching there. So in what you did in particular with me, you were kind of like pulling out some information about me and learning like how I was responding to it. And then you were giving me like, oh, and this is what human design has. And that was like perfect match because I would be like, well, and this is how I do things. And it's like, yeah, the world doesn't accept it. And then she'll just like, well, actually, this is who you are. It's okay, you're like that. And I was like, growing tall on my chair,
Yeah.
just knowing that, wow, it is okay. It was okay to be like me. Yeah, because this is your blueprint. So I really felt like, again, I already said a million of times today, I just felt so seen and understood.
Yeah.
And if I only, knew my blueprint then, but we're not going to go there. So yeah, I love how you integrate your coaching that you're learning and also the human design and just really helping people get to their whole being of who they are and just for them to see themselves and embrace the world is only going to be a better place because we're going to be like, giving a gift of ourselves to the world.
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
expecting the other people, giving them permission to be themselves as well. So, and this is like another probably part of this whole journey. It's like, yes, I'm safe here. I'm doing the work. I'm meeting with like-minded people. But then you go to the world,
Yeah.
like test, can you survive conditioning? Or through conditioning. That's why I think having a coach is helpful, because you can like come back from the world and say, this is what happened. Can you help me? So yeah, that's how I see that you have such a powerful work that you're doing in the world. And please continue. The world needs you and needs the work you do. So yeah, I'm going to be posting all your links, but you can tell us here. So how we can find you, how we can schedule your reading, and get closer to who we are.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh my God. It's yeah, and it's always so nice to hear the feedback of how it impacted you. And like, yeah, I hear the real story of a real human and how impactful this work really is on life. So thank you so much for that. And the best way to connect with me is through my Instagram. So it's just Kate Petrova, at Kate Petrova in one word. And on my Instagram, I also share information about human design, and there's a link to my website where you can book a reading.
Awesome. Yeah, it's very simple. And
Yeah.
if you're not watching us on YouTube, maybe listening in a podcast, you can see how passionate she is. She's always smiling, and she's like, her eyes get sparkling when she talks about it. She's just so passionate and compassionate. And I think it's perfect, because you can see how much she is backing up her work and the evidence that she sees in people. So, and that's beautiful to have somebody on the other side who is like so passionate just to help you, like, yeah, this is who you are. And you're more than enough. And look at your gifts. And all those challenges that you're going through suddenly become all your assets on the other side. And this is what happens when we create that bridge and walk the bridge from I'm not good enough to what is possible. Really, you can see like how many assets you possess, and how much more is in front of you, more you access who you are and your assets, and go into the world like, whoa, there is way more to you than just enough. And that's beautiful. And again, going back to the nature where we started and feeling alive, like if we look at the nature, all of it is there. We have thunderstorms, we have winds, we have hurricanes, all of that. So, but it does not mean it's worse or better. It just is. And it's just flow of the nature. And the leaves are green and there are no leaves. Just simply like reflect our life and who we are in a evolution. And I think our ego, when it goes into that judgment, that's what really keeps us disconnected to who we are. And we are going into like, it's either winter or it's summer. No, it's both. And how can they coexist? Yeah, and that's beautiful to get in touch with that human design blueprint, and also have a coach on your side who is like your best cheerleader. But at the same time, I know Kate, she's not just your best cheerleader, she gives you the work to do.
This is true.
I know. We also come from that culture that work is important.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which could be another, topic for conversations.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Kate, for being here and telling us about this beautiful work that exists out there. I just recently learned about human design, and I'm happy that I took time to get to know myself through this blueprint, and also know that I have so much power and so many assets that I haven't even used. Maybe not even like 20% of it. Yeah. So it's good to know. All right. And beautiful audience, you are good enough and more than good enough. So celebrate you, celebrate your assets, and definitely schedule session with Kate. you will know more about yourself. Is there anything else you would like to say, Kit?
No, I really enjoyed this conversation. And yeah, as you said, I'm so passionate about helping people to see how powerful they are, how unique they are. And yeah, there's no better gift to than just knowing who you truly are and being who you are and feeling like you are enough.
Yes, exactly. It's a beautiful ending.